say that they don't want to roar, so why do we deny our own light inside? Baby, we were made from stardust, so shine.
Peace and blessings, family, and welcome to Labors of Love podcast. We are here to inspire, uplift, and enlighten. Each episode, we will be hearing from Black midwives, doulas, and other traditional childbirth supporters who have dedicated their lives to being of service to Black mothers and families in all aspects of the motherhood journey. This evening, I have the privilege of speaking with Ashlee J. Johnson, a mother of three, an author, and entrepreneur. Being petrified of needles and hospitals during her first pregnancy, she knew she'd need to find an alternative for her birth experience. She and her husband found a birth center 50 minutes from their home and took 3 months of birth classes to prepare for a breathtaking water birth. From there, she studied to become a birth and breastfeeding educator and doula, which led to the creation of Birth Class in a Box. As a result of using Ashlee's Birth Class in a Box, Black women are having breathtaking births, avoiding unnecessary pain, and enjoying the journey to motherhood. She's looking for women who want to know their options, make decisions in confidence, and prepare for birth in a fun way. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello.
Ashlee, I am so glad that you could join us this evening. I'm excited to jump into this conversation. I always ask, the bios don't always capture everything that we have going on, and I'm sure we'll get into a lot of it, but definitely feel free to add in where necessary. And I'm glad we also have a special guest with us.
Yes, Miss Layla.
Layla, as long as she's happy. This is absolutely a family show. You might see some ripping and running through, but we get it done, right?
Right.
So good. Well, we can just jump into the questions and see where the conversation takes us.
Awesome.
So prior to becoming a mother yourself and growing up, what were some of the messages that you received around pregnancy, labor, delivery, birth?
All of the stories that I heard were very traumatic, right? There were stories of like emergency C-sections, and I remember my sister right above me being pregnant and being in labor, and she kept going to the hospital and coming back, and going to the hospital and coming back. And then eventually she left and she didn't come back. And then I'm getting a call from like my mom, like she has to be rushed in for a C-section. It was a lot. And I'm like, what? Like what happened? And many of the stories that I heard was very much like that. And it created like a sense of fear inside of me of like going through that process myself. And I used to be like, I don't want kids.
Right.
I want to be married. My older sister had 5 boys at the time. I was like, she has my 2.5 right there. We are good.
I understand. I truly understand. It's so interesting how we do have similar stories. So at what point did you begin to come into the information of the options and a different way to birth?
Yeah, so I got married September 2013. And I got pregnant on my honeymoon. Okay. And so, like my bio said, I was afraid of needles, still am. Didn't associate good things with hospitals. So I was like, we're gonna have to figure something else out. And we went to the birth center and they gave us a list of birth classes to go to. And we settled on Bradley, which is like 12 weeks of birth classes. It's a lot of classes. But it was so awesome. And all of the information that I received, it was like fascinating and mind-blowing. And, ended up having this amazing water birth. And it was very like textbook. And from there, I was like, more people need to hear this. Because I was like, no one is talking about the stories like my birth story, where beautiful, and it was like breathtaking, and I wanted to do it again, and
Right.
I wanted to talk about it, right? And it was not traumatic at all.
Yeah,
And I'm like, why don't more people have stories like this?
absolutely.
And so that's what kind of started my journey. And what, 6 months after I had my son, I was in classes to become a birth educator. And then a year after that, I became a breastfeeding educator.
Excellent. So what do you feel was the key component in having such an amazing birth experience for yourself?
I think one, it was having the information. Having the information was definitely key, and knowing what was available to me, and then making decisions myself versus just kind of being like put in situations like, this is your assigned doctor, this is your assigned hospital, right? And I actually started at an OB practice, and I was like, this is not going to work for me.
Right. Under how many visits? Because I know it's like you go to a couple visits and it's like,
it was like one or two.
Yeah,
it was like one or two, and I think it was one where they had to take blood, and they were like asking questions, and they wouldn't allow my husband to come into the room with me. And this was way before COVID, so that wasn't even a factor, right?
Right.
And they said it was because they wanted, in situations of like abuse or whatever, they wanted the mom to be freely answer those questions. But it felt isolating, and like it made it more scary than anything. Like, I don't want to be back here by myself. I don't know what to expect.
Exactly. And that's your support. So understanding the ideal environment that you wanted to be in, when you began taking the classes, what was your intention? Like, what was your overall goal in beginning to do the education piece?
I think my goal was to learn how to cope with the pain without an epidural. I think that was really my focus at the beginning. And then it evolved into like, I want to have a magical experience. Like, I want this to be amazing. I want a water birth. And, like all these other things started to be added to it. But it definitely just started with like, I don't want to have a whole bunch of pain.
Right. They're definitely understandable. And then you realize that it doesn't have to be that way, right? That getting the information and then knowing is empowering. So it takes away some of the anxiety. So it seems like from my experience, it was a similar thing, that once I had the information and kind of had some awareness of what my options were and some of the techniques, and I had supportive people around me, then it definitely made me relax more into this process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think like one of the greatest shifts that I tell people in my work now is, I think it was more mental than anything, right? Like, it's obviously a physical, situation, but the way you think about the process really changes the experience that you have. So when you're thinking about contractions as pain, then you go into it like, I need to find a way out of that part, or I need to find a way to fix that part or avoid it, right? But when you know what the contractions are doing, that it's a temporary thing, for one, that it's a gracious process of, it's not like continual pain, but it's like a contraction and then you get a break, a contraction and then you get a break. It totally changes the way you think about it and approach it. And you can be in that moment and be like, okay, this means I'm one step closer to my baby. This means my baby is about to come out.
Hey family, thank you for tuning in. Check out the full episode at our Labors of Love podcast YouTube channel. And while you're there, subscribe and turn on those notifications. Your support is truly appreciated. Peace.